In the heart of Beverly Hills, just behind the dazzling storefronts of Rodeo Drive, the Grand Legacy Hotel stood like a monument to pride. The first rays of sunlight kissed the gold leaf details on the hotel's facade, offering just a glimpse of the opulence within. The lobby, beneath gigantic crystal chandeliers, was like a time capsule. Every piece of furniture, carefully selected antiques, the oil paintings on the walls, whispered silent stories of wealth and power. The echoing sound of heels on the Italian marble floor proclaimed that this was no ordinary place. It was, in a way, a kingdom. That morning, as the humid Los Angeles air had yet to dissipate, the hotel's heavy, brass-embellished doors slowly opened, as if awaiting a mysterious guest. The man who entered was a stark contrast to this world of extravagance. His leather jacket bore the weariness of years, faded and cracked in places. The t-shirt underneath, perhaps once a vibrant color, was now a nondescript shade of gray. His boots looked as though they had seen long walks and adventures on the dusty streets of Los Angeles. On the man's face, shadowed by a light beard, was a tired but determined expression. This man, drawing the gaze of everyone in the lobby, evoked a feeling of not belonging, like a stranger. Behind the reception desk, with her flawless makeup and bright red nail polish, Emily stood like a statue. Engrossed in her computer screen, she noticed the arrival of the man, and a professional smile appeared on her face. However, this smile couldn't hide the boredom and disdain in her eyes. Lifting her head slightly to look at the man, the words that came from her lips hung in the air like poison. Standard room? Her tone was not a question, but a judgment. Emily's inner voice screamed, "What is this man doing here?" Her eyes scanned the man's clothes, imprinting every detail in her mind. "Our other options," she continued, trying to mask the mocking tone in her voice, "might strain your budget a bit. I suspect." The man briefly glanced at the elite concierge badge on Emily's chest. This badge was a symbol of the hierarchy and privileges within the hotel. Then he looked back at Emily, a slight smile appearing on his face. This smile was a silent challenge to Emily's condescending gaze. "Thank you," he said, his voice soft but firm. "The room will be great." These simple words, in fact, carried a much deeper meaning. This man was the unknown, legendary Hollywood figure, the real owner of the hotel, Keanu Reeves. As Keanu walked slowly under the massive crystal chandeliers in the lobby, his shadow stretched and shortened on the wall. This shadow seemed to represent his true identity, the secrets he hid. The people around him didn't pay attention, passing him by. No one could guess that this ordinary-looking man was actually the owner of the hotel. Keanu used this cloak of invisibility as an experiment, a tool for observation. He wanted to see how people behaved in the absence of power and wealth. As he approached the glass door of the spa, he observed the luxurious and peaceful atmosphere inside. Marble floors, dim lights, relaxing music. It was a refuge from the chaos of the outside world. But the doors of this sanctuary were not open to everyone. Massage therapist David stopped Keanu at the door. David had a polite but condescending expression on his face. The wellness director tattoo on his arm symbolized his authority and power in this area. "I'm sorry, sir," he said, his voice formal but cold. "This is for VIP members only." Keanu looked at David's tattoo, then back at him. "So how do I become a member?" he asked, with a curious tone in his voice. This question was actually an opportunity to test David's values and priorities. David wasn't expecting this question. He couldn't suppress his laughter, a laugh that mocked Keanu's appearance, belittling him. $50,000 a year, he said, without trying to hide the mocking tone in his voice. "Plus private appointment fees. Might be a little much for you." Meanwhile, Emily leaned towards the security guard in the lobby and whispered, "Keep an eye on that guy in the t-shirt. I don't think he belongs here. He looks like he might cause trouble." The security guard looked at Keanu with suspicion. His gaze felt like a weight on Keanu. Keanu ignored these looks and headed towards the elevator. As the elevator doors closed, Keanu thought that he was beginning to see the true face of the hotel. A few hours later, Keanu decided to go to the hotel gym. This was a place where not only physical strength but also social status was displayed. Behind glass walls, there was a world filled with state-of-the-art equipment, gleaming chrome surfaces, and mirrors. In one corner, a group of men enjoying showing off their muscular bodies were chatting and laughing loudly. Keanu, ignoring this showy environment, started to warm up quietly in a corner. However, this silence didn't last long. Troy, one of the bodybuilding champions, noticed Keanu. A mocking smile appeared on Troy's face. His steps, like a predator approaching its prey, were slow and confident. "Hey, buddy," he said, his voice loud and challenging. "Tourists aren't allowed to work out here. These machines aren't for skinny guys like you." Troy's words targeted Keanu's physical appearance, trying to humiliate him. Keanu shook his head, not responding. This silence emboldened Troy further. He took another step closer, his body language exuding challenge. "I think you should go do some yoga or something," he added, his voice mocking and condescending. "This is for professionals." Keanu took a deep breath. This breath was a harbinger of a transformation. A slight smile appeared on his face, a smile that was a challenge to Troy's condescending words. He slowly walked towards the pull-up bar. He effortlessly did a few pull-ups, then continued with one arm. The people in the gym were stunned by this unexpected display. Conversation stopped. Eyes turned to Keanu. Troy's eyebrows rose, the mocking smile on his face slowly fading. You work out?" he stammered. Keanu shrugged. "A little," he said, his voice modest. Troy silently retreated. Keanu's performance had shaken his authority, making him look small. As Keanu left the gym and headed to his room, whispers rose behind him. He was no longer just the weird guy, he was the mysterious guy. When it was time for dinner, Keanu entered the hotel's luxurious restaurant. The restaurant was the pinnacle of elegance and wealth. Crystal chandeliers, candlelight, white tablecloths, and silver cutlery. Every detail was carefully selected, creating a perfect atmosphere. But this perfection was a testing ground for Keanu. Restaurant manager James directed Keanu to the table in the farthest corner. "Our tables with a view are reserved," he explained, his voice ice cold. These words were an excuse to exclude Keanu, to keep him out of sight. At the next table, two women wearing expensive jewelry were quietly sizing up Keanu. Their gazes judged Keanu's clothes, his posture, everything. "How did that guy get in here?" one asked, her voice a little louder than a whisper. The other answered, shrugging. "Maybe he escaped from the kitchen." These words reached Keanu's ears, but he ignored them. Keanu pointed to the most expensive dish on the menu, the $350 truffle-infused Wagyu. This was not just a choice of food, but also a challenge. The waiter's eyebrows rose, his face showing surprise and doubt. "Are you sure?" he asked, his voice hesitant. "That's a serious choice." The waiter's words questioned Keanu's financial status, seeing him as someone who couldn't afford this choice. Keanu looked into the waiter's eyes, smiled slightly. "Yes, I'm sure." Just then, the hotel's general manager, Michael, hurried through the crowd. His face was pale, as if he had seen a ghost. Emily rushed to his side. "Mr. Michaels, about that guest." Michael silenced her with a harsh look. This look showed that Emily had made a mistake, a big blunder. Michael stepped towards Keanu, a forced smile on his face. He bowed and extended his hand. "Mr. Reeves, it's a great honor to have you here." These words shocked everyone in the lobby. Emily's lips began to tremble. Her eyes widened in horror. James's hands were covered in sweat, his face turned red. The women at the next table stared at each other, their mouths agape. Keanu stood up and shook Michael's hand. "Don't worry," he said, his voice calm and confident. "I just wanted to see my hotel, as it really is." These words were a confession, an explanation, and at the same time, a lesson. That night, nothing at the Grand Legacy Hotel would ever be the same. Keanu gathered all the staff in the meeting room. This was no ordinary staff meeting. This was a reckoning, a lesson, and a moment of creating awareness. Keanu stepped onto the stage, a deep seriousness in his eyes. "I learned something here today," he began, his voice echoing throughout the hall. "Real luxury is how you treat people. Luxury is not just in gold-leafed walls or expensive wines. Truly elite people are respectful, no matter who they are facing." Emily couldn't hold back her tears. She realized the mistake she had made, writhing in regret. James bowed his head. He wanted to sink into the ground in shame. Keanu, looking at all the staff, added, "The real wealth in life is how we treat the people around us. I will not forget how you treated me today, and you should never forget this lesson either." These words were a farewell, a warning, and at the same time a message of hope. Outside Los Angeles was glittering with nightlights. The city, as if nothing had happened, continued to live at its own pace. Keanu got on his old motorcycle, the sound of the engine breaking the silence of the night. As he disappeared into the darkness, he left behind a hotel that would never be the same again, and a lesson that would not be forgotten. The Grand Legacy Hotel would now be a symbol not only of wealth and luxury, but also of humanity and empathy. Keanu's unexpected visit left an invisible but deep mark on the walls of the hotel. This mark would remind every employee, every guest, and even the hotel itself of Keanu's lesson.